By now, many of you probably know how OP the Fatal Flourish Forbidden Jewels are with Trap and Mind skills, but for the uninitiated, it essentially gives you 130% more damage because it lets your skill repeat with 60% more, without any additional character animation. I'm using these jewels with Blade Trap in conjunction with Crystallized Omniscience. Now, is Omni the most efficient way to build Blade Trap? Probably not. The Impale variant is likely much more well-rounded and cost-effective, but I didn't get to play around with Omni last league, so I thought it would be a cool thing to build around. Now, the damage I think is pretty good for the level of gear I have. It pretty much deletes anything except for Uber Eater and Exarch, because they have that initial damage reduction. Every other boss is a bit of a joke, as they just kind of fall over as long as you know where to pre-lay your traps. Before I get into the gear, here's a brief summary of all my defensive layers. This character may only have a 4k life pool, but it's surprisingly really tanky. I have almost 800 regen and some reduced damage over time taken. 100% spell suppression and ailment immunity, Fortify, cause champion, 89% max res from melding, and 65 chaos res, and we permanently chill and sap bosses. Now, you may have noticed, I haven't mentioned armor or evasion. That's because I'm not scaling them on a champion. I wanted to see if I could get away with not using Grace or Determination so I have more room for damage auras. To deal with physical damage, I have really high max elemental res and some fizz taken as elemental on my gear and Watcher's Eye. I think I'm at 35% right now. You can get it higher, but it takes increasingly higher investment. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. I'm using a Mage Blood, but that's only because I refuse to have to constantly press my flasks. Perseverance is better in almost every way if you're scaling armor and evasion, which again, I'm not, but probably a good idea. This build makes use of a few key uniques, with the only mandatory one being Crystallized Omniscience. You can use something else, but that would completely change how we're scaling a lot of our damage. The Fatal Flourish jewels are also way too good to skip. In fact, they're the only reason I made this character. For 2 jewel sockets, you get 130% more damage. We're also making use of Slave Driver's Hand, which I highly recommend since it gives you so much quality of life as a non-Saboteur trapper. Making our traps cost life solves our mana issues, and we're able to get cast speed to throw faster, which makes traps feel so much better. My pair has +2 aura gems for my Purity of Lightning. You want a level 23 gem for +5 max res, which lowers the required aura effect breakpoints. You can get +2 on your helmet too, which is much easier than chasing a specific corruption. Secrets of Suffering lets us easily cap our crit with Brittle, and gives us the ability to sap, which is a great defensive layer. You can forego this and use Brittle Ground implicit on your boots. This frees up a passive point in Jewel Socket, which is actually a decent chunk of damage. However, having to walk on top of enemies to cap your crit is way too awkward. I like having good damage uptime while I'm dodging mechanics. I'm using Melding to get 89% max res. You can get 90 if you get some Eldritch implicits, but I'm using mostly Conqueror influenced rares. We can pretty much ignore the downside of Melding since we're using Omni and a Resist Flask. I'm scaling my Lightning res because my Impossible Escape lets me get an extra max lightning resist. This specific jewel is really expensive, it's like 20x. You can get the Unwavering Stance one, which is only 1 less max res for like 4x. You'll still be able to get 90 max res if you sacrifice some damage on your rares, or if you get more aura effect. On your rare gear, you want to prioritize getting enough suppression for 100% combined with your tree, same with your Element Avoid, as much attributes as possible for Omniscience, elemental damage, and fizz taken as Ellie. These boots are pretty easy to make. You can spam essences, recombinators, or use a fractured mod. For the enchant, lightning damage if you haven't killed recently is a lot more damage. It's like 6 mil DPS more. I got sick of running lab and settled on regen, which is still really nice. Instead of move speed on your Eldritch implicit, action speed is better because it affects your throw speed too. I wanted suppression on this body armor, but I got triple T1 suffixes so I kept it. Once you have your 3 suffixes, you can guarantee the fizz taken as fire on an Elder base with Reforge or Augfire. You can Ashling after a Reforge for the ailments if you need it, or Aug after Veiled Chaos depending on what's cheaper. For your shield, you want some max res, In case you didn't know, you can use Harvest to swap the element. If your suffixes are full, a Redeemer Exalt will guarantee weapon elemental damage. As per usual, I slammed lowest tier. I also deleted like 30x trying to reforge a good life roll, so I think I hate the shield. I recommend just settling for crafted life, it's only like 20 or 30 less. By the way, this is a skin transfer of Invictus Solaris because I hate the look of the spiked shield. Also, I should mention, I'm using Warbanner here for the accuracy, and since it's free from the Champion Ascendancy Arrogance for more aura effect. My weapon is nothing special, just a lot of flat LE. I have an open suffix here, so I can get either more cast speed or more damage. Rings are simple, you just want life, attributes, elemental damage, cast speed, or accuracy if you need it. This helmet is kinda trash, only 2 suffixes, unelevated. But I was running out of currency, mostly because of the shield. You can do the same thing as the body armor for the Fizz taken as fire, by the way. Up until recently, I was using this helmet, which was completely serviceable. In fact, it was much stronger defensively, and the suppression made the rest of my gearing a lot easier. And is there really much of a difference between 80mm and 70mm DPS? You can stack different elemental shifting temple mods along with Koral's Veiled mod too. I have Second Wind in my Blessing setup instead of increased duration because I need the high mana multiplier to get low life on one cast to proc my adrenaline. The anomalous version gives you regen on use, which synergizes well with this setup. Overall, this character was pretty fun, but getting all those suffix mods together was kinda rough. In the future, if I play the skill again, I'd probably build it differently. The Molten Shell Determination armor package is just too good to not have. As always, PoE is in the description, and if I missed anything or if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment.